IG and Castbox. This is Dope Comedians. Welcome to episode, I don't know what number this is, but welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's exciting.
You guys, today for the show, I've got another dope comic in LA. He was, you could see him on Halt and Catch Fire.
Oh yeah,
I did that. Waiting on Mary, and then he also performs at the Pack Theater, and he's a writer and a really great musician. Everyone, welcome to the show, my friend Jonathan Chow.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Or
Elijah. J. Elijah.
The
stage name. Yeah, anything. You can call me whatever.
I'll call you whatever then.
Yeah.
Whatever. So what you smoking?
I am smoking. This is I brought my grinder with a guitar pick in it, just because I read somewhere that you should have like something in there there's a keef catcher. And so, like, it pushes stuff down. But this is a Blue Runts. It's an indica that I have.
Oh, is it indica?
It is an indica. I know. I usually smoke sativas, but like.
Why'd you switch?
I was. My girlfriend actually prefers indica, and so I was like, I'll get an indica, and like, I've been smoking like Blue Dream for a minute, and I was like, I love Blue Dream. That's what I usually get, but I was like, I should maybe switch it up, and this stuff hasn't been bad. Do you really notice the difference between sativa and indica? I
haven't smoked indica enough. I know that I like what happens to me when I get high is that I'm more productive is what happens. So when I get, I feel like when I was trying indica, it would slow me down, but I was still doing. So I was like, I was doing stuff, but just at a slower pace.
Interesting.
Is what I think was happening.
Right. And that's what I've heard, right? Like, I don't know that I've smoked enough of indica to to be sure, but yeah, that does seem to be my experience. What just blows my mind is the idea that we can chouse now, because it used to be it was whatever. But I never experienced. I didn't experience that. For me, it's always because I'm from LA. Maybe. Right.
There's options all the time.
No. I remember back in Florida, there was I mean, I went through a few just friends of friends who would be able to pick up, but it was never. You never got to choose. It was kind of this is what we have.
Yeah.
And it was kind of oh, okay. And so now knowing that they're there are different strains and sometimes they have fun names and there's a whole culture to it that I'm kind of oh, I should learn all this.
I would love to have a strain named after me.
Oh yeah,
that would be cool.
That would be cool.
Maybe I could get one a cool black chick one. Maybe a strain that's called cool black chick.
Yeah.
Cool black chick.
What would you You should do it yourself. You should combine them.
I don't know how to grow.
I know, right?
I got a nice little window balcony thing.
Yeah, this is a lovely place. You get good light. There's a very cute cat resting over there.
Comes with a cute kitty.
Yeah.
Well, let's blaze it up.
Oh, sure.
Let's do it.
Are you down for this?
I'm
indica?
down. You brought it, so I mean, if you're gonna share.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. No. So when did you, it was difficult for you to find some weed in Florida?
Well, I wasn't, I was late to the party, I suppose. Cause
we usually are.
Right. I grew up and I still am to a degree, religious. And so I was a very straight and narrow kind of church, no drinking, no sex, no taking the Lord's name in vain. Yeah. And to this day, I still try not to do the GD.
Yeah.
I'll say I swear a lot more than I think I should. But it's also, good. I feel that's the old habits kicking in. But I think, one of the reasons I think I smoke is also the same reasons that I swear, is that I feel like I'm a good, or I try to be a good person, and the stigma that is associated with foul language or smoking weed, I'm kind of those aren't me. And so it also I think and maybe it's different now, but I always felt the stereotype of being Asian American, you have to be the model minority in a sense of
Yeah.
like you have to be responsible, you have to be all this, and so you certainly shouldn't be smoking weed. And so like the idea of kind of like, well, we aren't a monolith, I suppose.
Yeah,
And so I'm kind of
yeah.
like, there's actually a movie called if you'd like greens, please, you're the host.
Okay.
But there was a movie called The Perfect Score. Did you ever see it's like a heist movie where they're trying to steal the SAT scores? But one of the kids, they're all high schoolers, and it's like Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson are both in it before like Avengers, so that's kind of trippy.
Really?
But there's an Asian stoner in it who's like their hacker.
Okay.
And like I just remember seeing it, I was kind of like, oh, and like this was before I had tried anything, but just seeing it, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I guess there would be like Asian stoners out there. I'm like, that could be me.
Of all races, of all cultures, all
Right.
nationalities. Because cannabis, it comes from, it's really heavily grown I know in Africa, they have like, it's just fields of it. Like you can just grab it off the side of the road there in certain areas of Africa. I think India is
That
where
makes
a lot of
sense.
it has come from. So yeah, it's more cultured.
Is that why indica? Like indica and sativa, or maybe Africa and Asia?
I didn't think about that. I don't know. That's a good question. I'm gonna look that up and have that answer for you for the next episode.
Oh, right. That'll be good to know. Excuse me.
This is cute. What? Oh, this is the
It's a minion. I'm sorry, I got very excited. I found this here in Los Angeles. It's silicone, so I don't break it. I used to
Yeah,
have like an
it's
elephant
squishy.
pipe, but like it broke.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's squishy. It's a little minion. You smoke out of his eye, I suppose.
yeah, that's
But
cute.
yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
All right, so you what were we talking about? Yeah, it's kicking in. So your cannabis when you first had weed.
Oh yeah. I mean, like we would go to like a friend of a friend. We wouldn't get to pick like
Of course not.
whatever.
You can't.
But like that must have been so different. Like, so when did you? I guess like when you started smoking, like you already had access to like.
I started smoking late in the game too, but I actually didn't start smoking until I lived in New York, which was way late. I don't know. I was like, I don't know, 24 or 3 or whatever. And I had a friend who showed me like just had so many different strains, and he had like literally a case, and he had like different strains, and just showed me like all the different ones, and we tested them out and like watched Adventure Time. And
Did you get not glass, but they were like little plastic boxes? You know, I know that like when I came out here, they were doing the little pill bottles, like with a little pop cap. But when I was in New York, they had these like plastic boxes that were like.
That doesn't sound familiar.
No? Okay.
No, the dude that I would buy it from, I don't even remember how he would give it to me. I'm like blanking on like the whole me getting like I don't even know how I got it at this point. Like I remember there was a guy, but I don't.
I remember thinking when I was in New York for the New York Fringe Festival, a friend of mine introduced me to his guy, and like it was the first time because I was used to just like texting me like, "Hey, can I come by?"
Yeah.
And like, yeah. But like here it was you like texted someone, and then they were like, someone else is going to call you from a different number and take your order. And then a third person would deliver it to you, and they would text you from a different number.
That's here?
No, that was in New York.
Oh, in New York.
And I remember thinking, I was kind of, this is so like,
That's complicated.
right? But like whoever is operations manager, I was like, I want that dude to like
Probably the same
run.
person, just trying to make.
Right? Yeah. He's like got 3 different phones.
I'll make this confusing as fuck.
Right.
Didn't think I'm an enterprise.
Enterprise.
So I did go to a guy in New York, but I think most of the times I got it in New York, it was through like being at a party, kind of like what you experienced.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But someone usually would show in New York. The drug dealers just show up to wherever you are.
Right.
So I think that's why I'm like, I don't really have a clear vision of like acquiring this, because they just show up and it's like, oh, okay, and you just do the exchange and the party.
I remember when I started smoking more in Florida, one of my dealers was a college student, which was so weird for me because like I had graduated college and I would go back to college campus to like knock on like hey, can you hook me up? I'm old now. But like also I look younger than I am. So most people probably were like, oh, that's just like a kid. And I'm like, haha, no, I'm not.
Still look young.
Oh, thank you. You as well. You as well.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, youthful.
Thank you.
It's the weed.
Yes. The weed.
The weed.
What? So you started smoking in New York, or was that
No, I was in Florida.
But that was your experience in New York.
Yeah, that was my experience in New York.
Okay.
Because that was after I'd started smoking, and I was kind of like, well, if I'm gonna be here
Where
for
is
a
it
few
at?
months, I was in. Oh yeah, where is it at? It's like where the weed at?
Where's the weed?
I was in Tampa, and it was a theater friend who smoked me out for the first time, and I remember kind of because I don't drink like and also I don't know if it's psychological or I know it's for I believe Asian people possess an enzyme that helps them metabolize alcohol quicker, which is why they get so flush. It's like, I don't know if, like I drink and I get super red.
Oh,
and
I
then
noticed that. Okay.
what usually happens is I'll get, I guess, what feels like hungover before I fall asleep. Like, so I can't pass out from drinking. Like,
because you'll be like in
right,
the hangover
yeah.
stage.
Right, I'm already like have a headache.
Yeah.
Feel like throwing up.
Do you wake up also with a hangover?
No,
or
actually.
So you get the hangover first. And
Yeah.
then,
But like I'm usually miserable before, and I'm like I'm not. It's not fun.
Yeah.
And also, I think I started drinking after my first breakup in college, and so like I associated it with like. I had seen enough media that I'm like, oh yeah, when you get your heart broken, you
go
turn
to the
into
bar,
a wreck.
Yeah. So you just did it. You're like, I'm
Yeah,
a
I
wreck.
was like, yeah, it's like this is like I'm like a brooding artist, which was not like my jam. And so also now I associate drinking, like when I drink, I also get a little sad. Where I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, that's what you do when you drink. You just be
Get
sad.
sad. Damn. You don't have to be sad. You can drink for fun.
I know, right. And so I didn't have that experience of like drinking, going out and drinking with friends and it being like a fun time. For me, it was kind of like, this is a dark.
It was definitely for that moment.
Right.
Oh, crazy.
May I smoke out of this? I don't
Hell
often get
yeah.
to smoke out of a bomb.
Yeah. You know what to do?
Yes.
Go
And
for
there's
it. Do
ice in it. It's cold. She chilled it.
Chilled
with
it
ice
out.
Cubes.
It's the same thing we had last week. Kosher dang. Kosher dang.
Kosher dang.
Yep.
That's great. That's a great name. Kosher dang.
Right? That's what it says.
Yeah. Or kosher dog.
Oh, dog.
D-A-W-G.
D-A-W. Oh, that makes more sense.
Kosher dog.
D-A-W.
Kosher
Okay.
dog.
Yeah.
How's the music coming? How's music
My music?
Yeah.
Thank you for asking. No one ever does. I appreciate that.
You're so funny. Your music is so fun.
Oh, thank you. It's fun. I wrote a song a couple weeks ago. I started writing a new song over the weekend that I promised myself to not be frustrated if I didn't finish it. So I didn't finish it.
Right.
I started a song and I didn't finish it, but I'm good. I'm saying it out loud so that I remember.
Right.
Yeah. You know, like I'm saying.
Now there's a record.
Since you're
Make her. She's gonna play it next time.
oh, now I have to finish
Or
it.
send a link. Yeah.
Oh.
There'll be a link on the Dope Comedian's Instagram page to
Which
it.
is funny. It's because like I can finish my songs the day. Like when you have me do your shows, like I can get
you
it
do
done in the
great.
day.
Song challenge.
Those are so hard. But I'm like, man, I write the song like an hour before I go, and
That's
I'm like, I don't
usually-
even know what
right.
I'm doing right now.
Nick Pupo and I used to do Book Report, which was a show where they ruining your childhood classics one by one, I think is the tagline.
Yeah.
And so we used to try to write a song for the book in question every month.
Oh.
But usually that would be the case where it would be either the night of the day of the show or the
Yeah.
night before where we're finally kind of like, okay, this is when the ideas start clicking. And usually I'm smoking and
Oh, yeah,
he's
of course.
not. And it's a good time. a lot of my collaborators don't smoke, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, that's weird. Like you
Yeah.
have that.
Maybe not a lot, but a few of them. Like a few of the people that I collaborate with often, like don't. And
Are
I'm like,
not.
and now I'm worried. Now I'm like paranoid. I'm kind of like, am I like
you the-
pulling my weight? Are they kind of like, you gotta.
I'm sure they wouldn't be pulling with you if you weren't pulling your weight, right?
Yes, that's a great
I'm sure
way to
they probably would have ghosted you a long time
Right.
ago.
They'd be like, this dude. he's,
Stoner.
Did you ever see the marijuana commercial with the gum person? I remember seeing that one.
Like
a
they
lot.
turn into gum or
Yeah,
something?
it's like on a couch and it's like a deflated balloon almost, and like they're like she started smoking
I
weed,
think so,
and I remember
yeah.
seeing that and being like, oh no, is that? But I'm like, that's so not my experience.
I vaguely remember that. But yeah, it's crazy how it has been positioned, cannabis has been positioned to be that. And when you actually experience, that's how you know when you talk to someone who has never smoked. It's like, okay, you clearly, boo-boo, have never taken a hit.
Right.
Because you wouldn't, even if you don't smoke anymore, like there's just a certain terminology that people use who have smoked and like, nah, it's not for me.
Right.
You know, there's just there's an understanding as opposed to the people who have never smoked it. They're just like, it's bad and you're going to turn into a balloon.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, you're exaggerating because
Right.
you haven't experienced it.
It's like reefer madness or that whole thing.
What do you think about the whole the vaping, the banning of the vape pens?
I feel like, I mean, the tricky thing with all of this is like there's not a whole lot of scientific data available because like you're not allowed to. They won't let people like research it, and so it's kind of like it's like an unknown quantity, and so like it's difficult to kind of be like, well, are they safe? I mean, I personally prefer smoking leaf, just because I also smoke cigarettes. I'm eventually going to quit, but like there's something about that like is comforting to me, or just like maybe a habit, I suppose. But like it's what I'm used to, and I like it.
It's okay. I'm not. You got.
Right.
I'm not judging.
I know.
I know tons of people who smoke cigarettes, and it's fine. It's you. So
the convenience of the vape, though, is kind of like I like. Just I'm kind of like, oh, you can do it indoors. You can kind of like you can sneak it.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, I also don't feel like I want to be sneak. I'm kind of like, if I smell like it, I'm kind of like, well, at least you know.
You just know. It's there. You know. Like let's just get it. The elephant in the room is
right.
Not.
Yeah.
It's sweet.
It's probably like it's me.
Yeah.
Like, and then you can see who like the person who's kind of like, I'm like, aha. They're.
Yeah, I can't wait for it to not be a thing. Like I'm so used to it and I forget, and then when I talk to people and some people kind of close up a little bit, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. Like for me, this is normal, and there's still a good percentage of the world and Americans who are very like we're so far from the truth of understanding even a little bit about cannabis.
Well, I was just thinking the other day, a friend of mine back in Florida and I used to talk about how weed, like when you think of drug movies, like weed is as a genre is like you know, in the same way that like heroin is like a drama, cocaine feels like an action movie, but like weed is like a comedy, like and like there are usually these tropes, and so I feel like that's a thing where they tried to do it with Timothy Chalamet.
Okay.
But he did like a drug dealer look like drama where he was kind of like, I'm going to be a drug dealer for a summer. And I was kind of like, oh, interesting. I'm like, it's not a comedy. And it was also like, he's a very like pretty boy. I was kind of going, okay, yeah.
Did you ever watch, I guess to your point, the thing that I can closest relate to being a drama would be Weeds, but it was also comedy. So the TV show Weeds.
Weeds.
They went back and forth. I think it was like a...
Right.
I guess it was in the middle, right? It was like a
dramedy.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it was a comedy with like high stakes, like life or death comedy.
Yeah.
So like a black comedy, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you look at something like Breaking Bad, which is meth, and that's like narratively, it's like so gritty. But I feel like in terms of society at large, you know, it's how it's presented in the media. Like if you had someone like, I don't know, like, you know how Dr. House is like on pain meds and like it's totally normal, and there's like actually an opioid epidemic like in the South, and it's kind of like, if he had been smoking like joints the whole time and like normalized that in a sense, would things, I mean, obviously you also have pharmaceutical companies like pushing pushing those drugs, but I think if we presented in the media, there was that billboard, like there was a pro weed billboard that I remember seeing like online years ago, but it was like a lady who's just like, and she looked like a suburban mom, was like, after work I don't want to sip a glass of wine, I'd like just to have a joint. And I was kind of like, if that were the branding that could somehow get out there of the idea of like, in the same way that like drinking is like a cool normal thing, like
yeah, I agree with you. There is none of that. Like,
right.
I don't, what you're saying to me is like, you're blowing my mind.
Well, I mean, I think that's maybe the idea where when people find out and they're kind of like, oh, your perception about me has changed. And that's because you have perception based on what you've consumed through media.
Right.
News, I think, to affect.
So, I mean, I feel like that change will only come through like people like us incorporating.
That's why I think
into
this is
our
such a
things.
great podcast. Yeah, I love that you're doing this. This is so cool.
Try to. I don't know if I had like, I don't know, the reason why I'm doing it has continuously changed, but at this point it's just fun. I don't know.
Oh, well, I love that I get to say I'm a dope comedian now.
Hell
I'm like,
yeah.
I'm a dope comedian.
Of course.
That's official.
I mean, anyone who does comedy for an extended period of time, you got to have some dopeness, because it takes a lot of strength and courage and energy to do it. You know, it's just something like, you gotta, I don't know, I'm getting all like, you gotta be a comedian and be like, I don't know, like live up to your comedian goals in your lives, you know? Pursue your dreams. Pursue your dreams. Don't give up. Right. But no, like if you do comedy, like I don't know, because people get discouraged. I think someone that I recently had on the show was talking about getting discouraged, and then just thinking about like how, I mean, just think about if you give up, the stories that won't get told or people won't hear.
Right.
Yeah. Think about the things that the world will never get to see because of whatever stops you from doing your thing.
I think that's one of the reasons I enjoy smoking weed is I mean, I'm not currently in therapy. I would like to be at some point, sure. But I feel like when I'm sober for a prolonged period, I get very like reflective in the terms of like, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. Like, what have I done with my life? Like that sort of thing of kind of like trying to figure out where I am, like in the journey. And that's like, can induce a lot of anxiety.
Sure.
Where like, I just can't like create because I'm kind of like, is anything I made good? Is anything I make going to be good? And like, whereas with this, like I smoke a bit and then I can just make something and then I can look at it after the fact and be like, okay, I can do something with it. Like I've gotten the ball rolling at least, where I haven't just been sitting and like reading the news and like just being anxious. I also think that like it's an occupational hazard for artists to be sensitive. And so I think that like, not that this desensitizes me, but it makes me a little less precious about those feelings, I think.
I guess certain strains make me even more emotional. Like I get there's just like orange cookies. If I have that, I'm gonna be like bawling for no reason. I'm like, why am I crying right now? What in the hell?
It's good though. I think like a good cry is always a good thing. I'm trying to think about like the last good cry I had. I was probably watching something.
I cried this morning.
Oh,
my
Like, was it a good cry or a bad cry?
I was over my computer. I was trying to edit. I was trying to put this thing together.
Oh,
And it just
this
like
looks
crashed on me. And I was like, man. And I was just so I wasn't like crying, but I was just like, I was just so, it was like, this has like happened so many times. And I'm like, this is taking so long.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting, like, my eyes, I'm like, I'm just going to let myself feel whatever I'm feeling right now. Even though this is not the end of the world. There's nothing happening that is like going to kill me. But like this situation is so, like, I'm so frustrated with my computer right now. I'm going to just, instead of hitting something or whatever, anything that could be super negative, I'm just going to like let it
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great that you can also like that you also caught that you were kind of like, okay, I'm either gonna get mad or I'm gonna like
get mad and punch my computer or just
or
some tears roll down.
Or just kind of like or just start have you ever done the thing where you just start laughing? Like
once I did that when someone was around and they looked at me like I was crazy.
right yeah I'm just kind of like woo.
So I think I should probably try to do that more. Yeah, laughing when I'm frustrated. I breathe now. Like I was definitely breathing this morning, doing a lot of breathing, but that's why I'm getting in the habit of breathing. Like I do inhale for 4, hold for 2, and then exhale for 8, and it feels really great.
Yeah, I remember in college because I went to I studied theater performance. Yeah, I studied theater. Yes, and one of the most valuable lessons I got was like. To get to tap into emotions, like you just have to for the most part you just have to breathe, because like for the most part when we go through our day to day, the way we breathe is very are people. Whoa! I didn't even realize people were like talking to us. Hi. If you breathe like deep breaths, you feel emotions a little more for whatever reason.
Whenever I meditate, I definitely feel a huge change. And when I meditate, I'm breathing. I'm doing those deep breathings, and I do feel like I have definitely cried while even just doing the breathing. Yeah, I have definitely like felt emotional. I've definitely felt something heavier. Felt like a release or something. I feel like something has adjusted.
Yeah. I remember in class, the teacher took like a young woman up and like was just like, all right, now take a deep breath, like deep into your lungs, and like she did, and she just instantly started bawling and just kind of like, oh, you like, yeah, you forget that like.
You forget to breathe.
We forget to breathe.
When you breathe, you remember that you're alive and that you're a human being.
Yeah.
And then that's powerful. Or like, oh shit,
right? Yeah. And with all that entails,
and everything is real.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, man, this stuff is great. This is all really great.
Blue runts.
This is a great conversation.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this thoroughly.
So I wonder what is the difference between, I know when I used to drink so much, the more I smoked cannabis, the less I drank. And I didn't even realize. I just randomly was like, man, I haven't not bought like 2 bottles of wine in a minute. And it just had like, it was just a thought. How does that translate into cigarettes? Because you said that you were trying to, or you eventually might try to stop. Like how would that...
I mean, I don't know. Like, I started cigarettes around the same time as I started the drinking. Like, I did the whole thing, like where I was kind of like, I'm gonna be that
and they
guy.
say cannabis is the gateway drug. It's like cigarette. Actually, there is a study, I believe, that usually people start with cigarettes.
Interesting.
And then it goes to drinking, and then weed.
Right.
And then, like.
Well, I feel like with cigarettes, there's a certain, I don't know, like part of me, and I don't know if this is an excuse, but like in the same way that I smoke weed, but like, I used to work with children a lot. And so like, I seem like, I was kind of like, okay, people see me as like a good, wholesome guy. And I'm like, could I still be like a good, wholesome guy if I smoke cigarettes? And like, yeah, but also I'm kind of like, I don't need to, but I also feel like there's a certain aspect of kind of like, you can smoke cigarettes and also be adjusted. But also like, I feel like if I'm thinking that, I'm probably not terribly well adjusted if that's on my mind. I also might just be addicted and like be able to come up with excuses.
That's what it does, though. Like that's exactly what it's supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
So it's working.
I wonder if it's also, and this is just a theory at this point because I haven't been able to test it soundly yet, but I feel like when I had a little more money coming in, I smoked cigarettes less. I feel like now that money is tighter, for whatever reason, like the cigarettes are kind of like a way to take my mind off the fact that I'm kind of like, oh, money's tight right now, but at the same time I'm losing money to it.
Right.
But like it's like a weird, like when things were going not better, but like when I didn't need the money, like I wasn't spending money as much on cigarettes, I think. And like now that,
was it any anxiety thing?
I think, you know what? It might just boil down to anxiety. Like the increased anxiety makes you want to smoke more. But also like,
but then the weed doesn't, like, you don't want to smoke weed instead? Or like, that's what I'm like,
I feel like if it happens, that's the direction it would probably go, is like, if I could just smoke weed in public, like cigarettes, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Like that would be the switch. But, I don't know. It's like, it's tricky.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because I've never really heard anyone say that they smoke cigarettes less because of smoking cannabis at all, or using cannabis.
Because I think cannabis, I mean, if anything, when I smoke cannabis, I want a cigarette because like it hits a little different, I think.
Yeah.
And also just because like I think another problem is I associate cigarettes with, like, if I'm running lines for a show, if I'm writing music and I'm running like melodies in my head, like I can take a break from what I'm working on, go down by the pool where I live and like have a cigarette and kind of just like say stuff out loud, pace around and do the thing, and like it's good time. I feel like it's a good use of time and a bad use of time.
But then, like, I guess, but you can get a vape though, because they usually are very concealed.
I'm also like with the vapes, with not knowing as much, and with as long as I've been smoking, I'm kind of like, if I had a healthy set of lungs, I'd be like, yeah, let's vape it up. I'm kind of like, my lungs are already like, they've already been. They've weathered enough that I feel like if I vaped on top of it, they'd be like, "What is this now?"
Yeah. Have you gotten a checkup on your like? Oh,
I haven't been to
any of that cancer stuff.
I am going to get health insurance this year.
Yes.
This is my goal.
Yes.
Because also I came from Florida and like, I feel like the state government actively fought against Obamacare to make it like more difficult to get health insurance. Or I should know how health insurance works. I'm an adult.
I don't really know how it works either.
Great. Okay, good.
I still don't get it. It's intimidating because they don't use words that are very inclusive. It's like, I don't know what any of this stuff means. Like what, like it was never explained to me as a kid. And so when I had it as an adult, I'm like, I don't even know what this does.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
It just never gets explained.
I was just having a conversation with a friend about when I was young, I took etiquette classes. I don't know. Did you ever take an etiquette class?
This is how you say.
It's like, and like don't soup should be seen, not heard. Like don't slurp your soup and like posture. Like I took those, and I was wondering if like we wouldn't benefit from enrolling people in like an online etiquette class of just kind of like, this is just like decorum of like how you should behave online, because I'm sure kids are getting like health insurance classes now, health insurance, and like, do
they have those?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Anyone took a health insurance class?
Did you guys take a health insurance class?
That sounds bizarre. Like it sounds like you would only take that if you...
Right? They must have them at colleges, on college campuses.
No, like, not a health insurance class.
Or maybe like, right. No, it would
not
probably
one about,
be...
Like, what would that be under?
Oh, it would be the same people who register people to vote. It would have to be people who represent like...
Oh,
the
so they
health
would...
insurance, who would sign you up for health insurance on campus. Because I feel like there are buildings that I've seen in California that like sign up here health insurance, which I'm so used to like, is this a scam?
No.
But I'm kind of like, no,
you walk in
like,
and
right.
never come back out.
Yeah.
That's how they get rid of everybody. We don't know. That's how you keep the population down.
Oh man, now I'm paranoid. This chair squeaky.
It's squeaky. I hear you. It's okay.
What do people say on here? Do people like?
Can you see it? Read it. I think usually it's just thumbs up, or I usually say, ask what are people smoking, and what are you smoking right now?
I don't want my glasses, so I can't read.
I don't know, and I think it's quiet. Okay, crickets. Somebody's there. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. This has been a far-reaching and lovely conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, healthcare. We're talking about healthcare.
Right.
Are you So you said you are not religious, or you are religious?
I'm still religious. I think that like
what kind of religion?
Non-denominational Christian.
Okay.
But I was also like confirmed as I grew up on a military base and like we moved around a lot, and so like the base chapel had to be like all kinds of chapel, all kinds of Christian chapel. I feel like now people of Muslim faith can maybe use the same place of worship.
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm like, or I feel like it's been a while since I've been on a base. But like, so we used to go to the church on base, and then also the church off base, and like some church retreats and stuff. So I was involved in like praise and worship band. The whole thing. Like that's where and it was a family thing. Both my parents, my dad plays guitar, and my brother. And so, but I feel like growing up on the military base and going to that church and being part of that faith community it was very jarring coming to the States because it was very insulating. I feel like the topics of like a woman's right to choose, gay marriage, like we were high school students, so like I guess they just didn't talk about it. Like they did do the no premarital sex thing, and like the no drugs thing, but it was mostly like it felt like a community center more than like a youth group, where it was kind of like, oh, you can play music, you can be amongst your peers,
right?
And like you're not out getting drunk, it felt like a very wholesome environment. And then coming to the States and like going to church and be like, oh, we're supposed to have a bunch of opinions about stuff that I'm not sure, God explicitly gave us the opinions we're supposed to have about things.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to say I've lost my faith, but like it's become increasingly difficult, I think, to identify with the group. And I guess the problem is if more Christians don't speak up when there are bad Christians, it makes it like a difficult group to be represented by. But at the same time, I feel like the tricky thing is the Christian faith teaches you not to like judge other people. But when I'm kind of like, oh, that dude says he's a Christian, but he is like, I'm trying not to judge him, and like, but by not judging him, my faith looks bad now. And so it's like, what do you do?
Yeah. But see that too, like, because I grew up in church as well, but like not all judgment is bad. Like you can sit there and analyze something and have an opinion, which is a judgment of something that is not negative or like, damning or whatever, demeaning. And so even that's like hard. That was hard for me too, being in church, even just that alone.
Right. I always think of the story about Jesus, like flipping tables over, like when
did he do that?
Yeah, there's like a whole thing where like people were selling stuff in the church, and like he rolls in and like he flips it, and then like he kicks people. And like that's what I think. I'm like, okay, so like there is a point of righteous anger that like is justified.
I think I'm always justifiably angry.
Right.
Like, why won't you just do it right?
Yeah.
Be good.
What about you? Are you religious or?
I think my religion is music and weed. I think it's in comedy. I do meditate. I think I'm having it's like right now what I'm going back and forth between my mind is like being okay with saying God and not relating it to Christianity or any other kind of religion. Like you can say God and not have it connect to a religion. It can just be God as in like the universe or God as in like.
That's interesting because I try to adjust if I'm talking to someone who I know doesn't share the same faith as me. I try to be like, I hope the universe provides, or I'm kind of like I'm sending you positive energy, like as opposed to like, but like as opposed to I'm praying for you, even though like that's kind of like what I'm doing in a sense. I'm just like I don't want them to feel like obligated to be like I don't need you to pray. I don't need you to pray for me. And I don't feel like anyone does that. But like I'm like we're both trying to meet each other halfway. I feel like
it's like when you say Merry Christmas to someone who doesn't celebrate. And
right.
Like,
yeah. We get it.
Yeah, we get it. Yeah, there's just a lot that has been ingrained growing up in church that is hard to undo. Ingrained in a sense that's like I feel like it's holding me back or something, you know, like there was a huge layer of guilt that I would always feel, which I don't feel anymore. I remember going into church for one of my other podcasts. We did an episode in one of the church I grew up in. We went back to it.
Oh, weird, but cool.
Yeah. But and we walked in. I was like, oh, how am I gonna? Because I remember, like how just I've always felt like an awful person. I never did nothing, but that's just how I always felt. And then when I walked in, I was like, I'm chill. Like for my podcast, like this is good. I was so happy. I was like, oh my God. I was like, thank you, God.
Right. Like, this is a blessing. Like, like coming in. I feel like for me, the other reason that I've stayed religious has just been certain role models in my life who are also religious that like my parents who are like I'm kind of like okay, like they support gay marriage, like they get it, they're literally or legitimately trying to just make the world better. And I'm kind of like them, or like I remember my youth pastor when I said I wanted to be an actor. He was one of the first people who kind of like you should be an actor. He's like, we have enough Christian like preachers and like other people like doing other things, like Christian actors kind of like and I'm kind of like, oh, that's an interesting thing. I do remember like when I was young and still in high school, I used to tell my mom, because that pastor inspired me, it's like I want to be a missionary to Hollywood. And like to this day she kind of thinks of me as a missionary to Hollywood, even though I'm kind of like I'm a little quiet about, like I'm not as vocal, and like I don't know, part of me feels like I should be just getting angrier about it, like the fact that like people are representing Christianity in a way that I'm kind of like, oh no, that's messed up, guys.
I think when you figure out how to articulate that either through your words or your music, you'll do it. I think it just take like you can still be the Hollywood missionary. Use the missionary
to Hollywood. Yeah.
You can still be that. You can still do it. Just figure out how you want to do it.
Right. Yeah. Or just kinda, I feel like maybe just I always felt like it was less about what you say and more about how you act.
It's definitely that, yeah.
And so, like, maybe if it's just that, keep your head down, kind of like know your faith, know who you are.
Yeah, and that's
maybe
your way of
that's
doing
the example that, like, you're setting. Oh, this took a lovely turn.
Skirt.
Also, I love that we're talking about religion over a bowl.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
Because that's the other thing. I feel like there's a stigma amongst religious people.
You
can't be a good religious person.
Yeah. But we have proof that.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Jonathan is our proof.
I struggle, but I try.
If you don't struggle, then you ain't breathing. Because, that's life. Life is a struggle.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, gosh, we got so deep.
Yeah.
What's your favorite ice cream?
What is Cherry Garcia? Ben and Jerry's.
If you could only eat one, I guess would it be that? If you could only eat one flavor of ice cream.
Oh wow.
For the rest of your life, for the rest of your living, breathing life, one flavor.
Oh man, that's a tricky one, because does that include like? No, this is getting. Like sorbets?
Oh, you sort. That's my literally.
Because I
that's
like
my-
if I had to choose between ice cream and like a sorbet, because I like tart, I
Yeah,
like fruit
me too.
flavors,
Yeah.
and so like a mango sorbet or something like that, I would ditch ice cream for sorbet.
That's fine. Okay, I accept that answer. Which sorbet?
Oh, maybe I would say mango sorbet
The
for the
mango's good.
terpenes. For the
Oh,
yeah.
the terpenes.
The terpenes.
Ooh,
The terpenes.
Can you drop some knowledge on that? On like
Yeah.
cannabis terpenes?
Oh yeah. No, I believe that they said that in mango has mango smoothie, and I hope mango sorbet, or maybe I just like eating mango sorbet. But like the terpenes, I believe, increase the high of the weed. Right? Is that the? That's the scientific.
Okay. Yeah, this is scientific definition of it. I think it also has to do with the aroma and the taste. Like some strains have taste or.
Oh right, where it heightens that.
Yeah. So it has to do with a lot of the kind of like any kind of flower, like a lavender or like whatever.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
thing you
Yeah.
put on your balcony. I'm losing blanking on
therapy.
flower
Right.
names now. Roses.
Roses
daisies.
or
So it's like the same thing as that.
hibiscus.
Hibiscus?
Is
That's
that
a
a
flower?
scented
What is that?
flower?
Hibiscus?
I think it's a flower.
I've heard of that before, but I don't know. I have no clue what that is.
Or chamomile. There's a
Everybody like there's like a certain group of people who just love chamomile, and it's like
yeah. It tastes like
weird. It's like
laundry softener to me, or maybe I'm thinking of chamomile scented laundry or something.
Ew.
But no, there's something about it that feels very soft. It's like a soft.
it feels.
It's
to
a
me
soft
like,
drink in the sense that sodas are like a hard drink. You know, like because it's hard on your. It's harsh.
Oh yeah.
And like
yeah.
chamomile just feels
It's
very like
soft.
pillowy.
From yeah, I guess so pillowy. I think of like medicine. Like when I drink it, it always reminds me of like having drinking
right.
some sort of medicine, which is why I don't like it. 'Cause
There's a Korean. It's called like hanyak, and it was like I guess it's like Korean herbal medicine that like we used to have to drink when we were sick, and it is some of the foul. Like it was so strong. Like that's what I think of like when I think of.
Did you wake
kind
up
of, like,
feeling?
I usually did. Like I feel like it was so potent that like you couldn't think of anything else other than like, what did I just ingest? And like my taste buds are mad. I want to like now that this is the first time I've thought of that in a minute, and now I'm curious what that flavor was like.
You gonna find it?
Ooh, yeah. I'm like, I wonder if as an adult I'm still like no.
Is it good? That'd be a good experiment, a fun experiment.
Right. Next time I'm sick, I'm gonna see if I can't find like a Korean herbal medicine.
Whatever that was called.
place.
How'd you say it? What was it called?
Hanyak.
Hanyak. That reminded me of. I just had a thought when I was a kid. My grandma, I used to suck my two fingers. I don't know. I think it might have been like these.
I used to suck my index finger instead of my thumb.
Your index finger. Yeah, so I was a finger sucker, a double finger sucker, and my grandma put. There's some stuff that you can put on.
Oh yeah.
Your hands and
for your nails.
Oh, is it for
you
nails?
You can put them on your nails too, so you don't bite your nails.
Oh, maybe that. Yeah. So I remember that. That's what that.
Oh, that's. This is interesting. Since I've started smoking weed more frequently, I've stopped biting my fingernails.
That's good. There's a lot of things you just stop doing when you smoke.
Right.
And you don't even. It's like, oh, okay.
Right.
That habit
It's
has
like,
gone or whatever.
It's good. It's useful.
Yeah.
Like I can scratch. I can scratch now. I feel like a cat.
I had a friend who would bite her nails so down to like it was her. It was kind of curved. Like it was.
Yeah. Her like right. I used to like. What's strange is like I can still look at my fingers and see where I used to bite them down
really
to.
Bite them.
Or like not like on my finger, but like mentally, and I can be like, oh, this feels so much safer. Like I was maybe like one nail away from getting like an infection or some kind of like.
I've never done that. I think I pull my hair out when I get stressed.
Yeah, I've been them down to where they like will they bleed.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. I'm anxious. I'm a little anxious. I'm an anxious guy.
Little anxious guy. Have you ever? You said you're not currently seeing a therapist. Have you ever seen a therapist?
I saw when I moved back to Korea post-college, post-breakup to live with my folks for a very short period of time. Like I was going to stay longer, but I came back to the States to visit friends, and then I emailed them and was like, I'm going to stay here.
Yeah.
But because I was so depressed, the language barrier, not having my friends, not really knowing like what to do. And like I think also I was still drinking and smoking at that point, or I had just started drinking and smoking. And so like I was also kind of just generally sad. And so my mom took me to see a Korean therapist who prescribed me some antidepressants, but I never took them, if only because I wondered how.
You didn't take any?
I didn't take them just because, like, having them I felt like was a bit comfort enough. Like I was like, okay, if
you use
like
that to
right,
go,
like,
okay.
but also like in my head I was kind of like, there was a language barrier between me and the doctor, and so I feel like in my head I was trying to be like, I didn't quite know how to say, I'm like the type of sad I'm feeling is very specific.
Yeah.
And so like what I probably end up sounding like is a more exact, like I'm just big sad, you know, like with my bare Korean, like just kind of like sad all time. Yeah. Like trying to explain in Korean, and then like he's kind of like, oh, this dude's really depressed. And I'm kind of like, it might not have been that bad.
Right.
But like, so I also wasn't sure if I could have gotten a fair diagnosis. Like no, not saying he was a bad doctor, but I was just kind of like,
you just understood that.
I was kind of like, I was like, I probably explained how I was feeling very poorly.
Yeah.
Also, I was anxious.
That's interesting. Well, the anxious.
Like, did I do a good job as a patient for this therapist? I probably didn't do a good enough job.
I've had that thought too. Like, was I okay as a patient? Like, what?
Right? Yeah.
It's like you just are where you are.
Right.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I know IG's gonna cut off soon, so I'm trying to.
Oh yeah.
Right, you guys are gonna go away because that's what IG does. So we're gonna continue chatting, but you know, you guys can tune in IG when the episode drops on Apple or Spotify, Castbox, Google, everywhere. You guys catch the rest of the episode there. But for now, we're gonna keep chatting, okay?
Yeah.
Bye.